talked about in one of my previous videos, masturbation was seen as one of the biggest threats to Victorian femininity. Masturbation was a very important issue to the Victorians, and therefore it should be taken into consideration when analysing Victorian society. Now, one of the most important aspects of female masturbation is the clitoris, but this organ is often left out of critical readings of female sexuality. And this organ is especially important when considering the Victorians, as the clitoris highly influenced medical treatments of hysteria and masturbation, such as the invention of the vibrator and clitoridectomy. But to understand the demonisation of the clitoris and masturbation in the Victorian period, one first has to look at the organ's history. Before the 16th century, the clitoris was frequently mislabelled and consequently misunderstood in medical descriptions and illustrations of female genitals. But then, in 1559, Ronaldus Columbus wrote the first scientific description of the clitoris, which was far more reliable than that of his predecessors. Although the word clitoris only makes its first known appearance in 1615. Now, during the 17th century, female orgasm was explicitly linked with conception, and because of the fact that the clitoris is quite good at producing orgasms, the organ became associated with fertility and was seen as having a vital role to play in reproduction. But then in 1712, someone published a pamphlet called Onania, which named masturbation as the cause for many medical diseases. Onania stated that self-pollution was a sin, not only against nature, but a sin that perverted and extinguished nature itself. Because of the fact that masturbation was now considered a medical and a religious problem, the debates surrounding the clitoris became really confused. Obviously, men used the penis to both masturbate and reproduce, whereas women had two completely different organs, the vagina and the clitoris, and people weren't entirely sure what role each of them played in reproduction. But the notion that female orgasm was essential to conception was highly disputed by the end of the 18th century, and the clitoris, which had previously resided in the space of motherhood and fertility, was now firmly in the realms of pleasure and sin. However, the final nail in the coffin was when they discovered ovulation in dogs in the 1840s. After this discovery, the ovaries were essentially seen as the control centres for reproduction, whereas the clitoris's sole purpose was providing female pleasure, something that was now viewed as completely unnecessary in productive sexual intercourse. Now we can consider why the clitoris and female masturbation was such a threat to Victorian ideology. One doctor even said that neither plague, nor war, nor smallpox, nor similar diseases have caused results so disastrous to humanity than the habit of masturbation. This is essentially because masturbation was thought to waste important vital energy that was necessary to being a healthy and productive member of society. The loss of this vital energy was thought to cause a wide range of physical and mental illnesses. But what really scared the Victorians was the fact that masturbation is perhaps the most private thing a person can do, and an act that cannot be socially regulated. If people indulged in self-abuse and suffered the mental and physical consequences, they would no longer be able to contribute to their community. The main issue for men was the loss of spermatic fluid, which was thought to cause melancholy and a lack of energy, and one doctor even said that it would cause a loss in the attributes of masculinity. Women, however, were more mysterious, as the majority would not ejaculate when they climaxed, and therefore no visible loss of substance would occur. And thus, Victorian doctors concluded that orgasm and masturbation in women had a negative effect on their already delicate nervous systems, which is why diseases such as hysteria and epilepsy were thought to be caused by masturbation in some cases. But what made the clitoris so dangerous was the fact that it directly challenged the patriarchy that Victorian society was based on. Stimulation of the clitoris to orgasm obviously didn't involve any penetration, and therefore female sexuality could potentially exist without men. The idea of women engaging in solo clitoral masturbation completely defies the Victorian ideals of femininity, which were centred around marriage and motherhood. If self-satisfied women could challenge that, they could challenge the male-centred society in which they lived in. Medical men tried to deny this challenge by stating that women could only feel sexual pleasure when a penis was involved, and in some cases that women couldn't feel sexual pleasure at all. And their fear of the clitoris and female sexuality is what inspired many of the brutal operations and treatments for female masturbation that would continue throughout the 19th century. As one critic put it, the medical profession wanted it both ways. The clitoris was seen as so unimportant to a normal woman that it would not be missed if removed, yet lurking in its tissue was the greatest threat to female welfare ever known. Thanks for watching. If you didn't catch the last episode of Victorians Exposed, you can just click here. And if you want to keep up to date with all of our videos, just click subscribe. We'll see you next time.